for being late. I woke up late and I had to get ready, so I'm here now. I know. Matt, hello, Matticus, Ryan, Phil, Shisu, Noe, hello. Hello, everyone. Today we're gonna read. We're gonna read scary stories. Hello, hello. Hopefully the music's not too loud. It shouldn't be too loud. Just lower it a bit, just in case. But yeah, welcome, welcome. Everything is last minute. I don't know. This year has been last minute everything, but I just want to like do stuff. So we're just gonna do another reading stream like last time from last year. I feel like that was like a really good stream, the Halloween reading stream. So decided to bring it back. What am I? I'm not dressed up as anything. Oh, like in like the other dimension. Nothing. I have work later, so today will not be a long stream compared to last stream because oh my gosh, yesterday's stream was so long. 12 hours. I mean, it was technically 11 hours, 48 minutes, but that's still basically 12-hour stream yesterday. But yeah, today will just be another short stream. It might be around like a couple hours, sadly. But yeah, after that, I'll take another break, a week break, because that this week was like, ooh, this month basically was stream grind. It's the most I've streamed this whole month. Just because it's October, spoopy October. So of course I have to stream for October. But yeah, we're gonna read. Let's see, what do I have planned? Gonna read a couple of stories. You guys can choose which one. Here, let me just switch over. Also, okay. Switching. Let's get out of the void for a minute. Also, I'm a bit sleepy, guys. Sorry if I'm a bit groggy. I'm very sleepy. But at least I got more than 3 hours of. I wish at least I got more than 3 hours of sleep yesterday. So I slept early. I slept at 6 a.m. and then I woke up at 12 p.m. Then I took a little nap because I got sleepy. I dozed off. But I'm back again. uh, but yeah, I don't want to work today. Why do we have work on Halloween night? That's so. That's so dumb and mean. I should have asked for 3 days off instead of two. But anyways, 2 days was better than nothing. Ah, where am I? Oh. So today we're gonna be reading some Lovecraft, and I only have Lovecraft stories planned. I don't know any other stories to read. So I just found those, and these are the ones I have. Three. I don't put more. Okay, I have more, but I don't know why I didn't type them. What? Because there's also the ones um that other people suggested, but I think they're a bit long. Because I know some bird mentioned the Dunwich horror. That's a little too long though. I don't know if I can read a whole chapter book of I don't know how many. I don't even know I can fit all these stories in 2 to 3 hours. But what the moon brings. I don't think I've read that one before. Mountains of Madness. I think that was a little long too, but it's okay. But yes, those are the stories from H.P. Lovecraft, who's like a horror author that wrote basically the founder who wrote all the Eldritch monsters and stuff like that. So basically, my dad. Just kidding. Why did I say my dad? But yeah, these are the stories. Feel free to choose which ones you guys want. So we have the Cats of Ulthar, Nyarlathotep, the Hunter of the Dark. Hopefully my mic is good, so. And then the Dunwich Horror, What the Moon Brings, and Mountain of Madness. So let me know which ones you guys want me to read. I think the Cats of Ulthar and Nyarlathotep is a short one. They're short ones. So that we can like get those two out pretty quickly. But I think the others are a bit long if you want a long read. Not super long read, but because most of these are short stories. I think the Dunwich is like a chapter though. I would read the Cthulhu mythos, but that'd be too long for that'd be basically the whole night and stuff. But yeah, let me know which ones you guys want me to read. If not, then I'll just put a poll. Well, I don't know how to put a poll. Wait, how do I put a poll? Let me make a poll. Friday, do not make polls. I'm gonna try. Nope, don't know how. Looks too complicated. I don't know how. Okay. But yeah, is there any ones you guys want me to read first? If not, then I'll just go with the first one, The Cats of Ulthar. Since that one should be easy. Oh wait, I forgot to put my suspect guy on. I wanted to draw more like an animated GIF of our suspect cat mascot, but I didn't have time. Sadly, I fell asleep trying to like where did I put him? Maybe right here. So I'm just like moving. I'm just like moving. You know what? I'll just put it here. Hello, Adrian. Yeah, no worries. Thank you, thank you. Oh yeah, but before though, do you have any story you want me to read first? Any story? Because I don't. If not, because I'll just start with the Cats of Ulthar, which is because their first two are short. The first two are short, so that's they're easy to tackle, and then we can go after like a long one. I don't think I'll read everything, because like if you don't have and if I don't like feel like reading in the end, I can just always read Hermitage. You can always go back and play Hermitage, which is also another reading novel. So yeah, because I think the Dunwich Horror is a bit too long, but it's also super interesting. I wish I had like maybe weekly reading, but then that's like too much to commit to. Also familiar with our Mountain Madness and Dunwich Horror, but they're both pretty long. Yeah, they're long. But yeah, if not, then I can just start with the two short story ones. Then I'll start with the Cats of Ulthar. Alright, let's go. Fitting. I mean, not fitting. Let's read the Cats of Ulthar. What do you mean fitting? Okay, anyways. What was I gonna put? Wait, what is this? I'm scared. Don't press that. Okay, so we're gonna read the Cats of Ulthar. Woohoo! Yes, not a cat. I'm not a cat, guys. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Druid. Okay. Yeah, it's a costume. Yep. Yep. I'm a cat for Halloween. There you go. Okay. Boom. We're gonna read. Oh, it's put in the title. Can't, can't spell. Ooh. Oh man. Okay. All right. Let's go. Do I have it open? I do. I'll try to have like a good audiobook reading voice. I'll try to my audiobook reading voice. Okay. The Cats of Ulthar by H.P. Lovecraft. It is said that in wait, oh oops, sorry. I don't know if you guys want me to like last time when I some because I know some for some people it's hard to like kind of understand Lovecraft's writing because I too kind of get confused. So I don't know if you guys want me to like kind of explain what each paragraph means. Not explain, but like what basically what I think. If it's like too hard, but I hope you guys don't mind if I do that. Maybe also because it helps me understand things. My detect commentary for each paragraph or two. So if you guys don't mind, or just want a straight through reading with no detect commentary, director's cut. But okay, I'll just do commentary, but not a lot, not too bothersome. But anyways, start over. The Cats of the Cats of Ulthar, the H.P. Lovecraft. It is said that in Ulthar, which lies beyond the river sky, no man may kill a cat. And this I can verily believe as I gaze upon him who sitteth purring before the fire. For the cat is cryptic, and close to strange things which men cannot see. He is the soul of antique Igdipus, and bearer of tales from forgotten cities in Meroe and Ophir. He is the kin of the jungle's lords, and heir to the secrets of hoary and sinister Africa. The Sphinx is his cousin, and he speaks her language. But he is more ancient than the Sphinx, and remembers that which he hath forgotten. Dun, dun, dun. Like, right. In Ulthar, before ever the Burgesses forbade the killing of cats, there dwelt an old cotter and his wife, who delighted to trap and slay the cats of their neighbors. Why they did this I know not, save that many hate the voice of the cat in the night, and take it ill that cats should run stealthily about yards and gardens at twilight. But whatever the reason, this old man and woman took pleasure in trapping and slaying every cat which came near to their hovel, and from some of the sounds heard after dark, many villagers fancied that the manner of slaying was exceedingly peculiar. But the villagers did not discuss such things with the old man and his wife. because of the habitual expression on the withered faces of the two, and because their cottage was so small and so darkly hidden under the spreading oaks at the back of a neglected yard. In truth, much of the owners of cats hated these odd folk. They feared them more, and instead of berating them as brutal assassins, merely took care that no cherished pet or mouser should stray toward the remote hovel under the dark trees. When through some unavoidable oversight a cat was missed, and sounds heard after dark, the loser would lament impotently, or console himself by thanking fate that it was not one of his children who had thus vanished. For the people of Ulthar were simple, and knew not when it is all cats first came. Wow. Okay. So, okay, we basically have a old couple that like to kill cats for fun, basically. And no one likes to talk to them. They're just feared. Alright. Oh my gosh, let me turn on my lights. It's so dark. This computer screen is so bright. Why is it white screen and not black screen? Right. Next paragraph. Okay. One day, a caravan of strange wanderers from the south entered the narrow cobbled streets of Ulthar. Dark wanderers they were, and unlike the other roving folk who passed through the village twice every year, in the marketplace they told fortunes for silver, and bought gay beads from the merchants. What was the land of these wanderers none could tell, but it was seen that they were given to strange prayers, and that they had painted on the sides of their wagons strange figures with human bodies, and the heads of cats, hawks, rams, and lions. And the leader of the caravan wore a headdress with two horns, and a curious disc betwixt the horns. There was in this singular caravan a little boy with no father or mother, but only a tiny black kitten to cherish. The plague had not been kind to him, yet had left him this small furry thing to mitigate his sorrow, and when one is very young one can find great relief in the lively antics of a black kitten. So the boy whom the dark people called Menace smiled more often than he wept as he stayed playing with his graceful kitten on the steps of an oddly painted wagon. Okay, so a caravan came. I feel like the caravan are kind of like from Egypt. I did not read this story before. Because it says human bodies with heads of cats, hawks, rams, and lions. And then the guy wore a headdress with two horns and a curious disc between the horns. And I think it reminds me of like the pharaoh hats. I think that's what my guess is. And then there's this little boy named Menace. I'll say Menace. I'll call it Menace. With a cute little black kitten. I've always wanted. Okay, for me, I never in my life pet a cat. In my in my whole long life, I never pet a cat before. Like I've seen them, but I never pet one. I never pet one. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I'm one for Halloween. I'm just like, I wonder if maybe they're so soft too. Maybe, for sure. I want to touch their paws. Anyways, back to business. Man, I'm gonna adopt a cat later. Someday. Right. Next paragraph. Next part. On the third morning of the wanderer's stay in Ulthar, Menace could not find his kitten, and as he sobbed aloud in the marketplace, certain villagers told him of the old man and his wife, and of sounds heard in the night. And when he heard these things, his sobbing gave place to meditation, and finally to prayer. He stretched out his arms toward the sun and prayed in a tongue no villager could understand. though indeed the villagers did not try very hard to understand, since their attention was mostly taken up by the sky and the odd shapes the clouds were assuming. It was very peculiar, but as the little boy uttered his petition, there seemed to form overhead the shadowy, nebulous figures of exotic things, of hybrid creatures crowned with horn flaked disc. Nature is full of such illusions to impress the imaginative. That night, the wanderers left Ulthar and were never seen again, and the householders were troubled when they noticed that in all the villages there was not a cat to be found. From each hearth the familiar cat had vanished. Cats large and small, black, gray, striped, yellow, and white. Old Cranan, the burgomaster, swore that the dark folk had taken the cats away in revenge for the killing of Mena's kitten, and cursed the caravan and the little boy. But Nith, the lean notary, declared that the old cotter and his wife were more likely persons to suspect, for their hatred of cats was notorious and increasingly bold. Still, no one durst complain to the sinister couple, even when little Adel, the innkeeper's son, vowed that he had at twilight seen all the cats of Ulthar in that accursed yard under the trees, pacing very slowly and solemnly in a circle around the cottage, two abreast, abreast, as if in performance of some unheard of rite of beast. The villagers did not know how much to believe from so small a boy, and though they feared that the village pair had charmed the cats to their death, they preferred not to chide the old cotter till they met him outside his dark and repellent yard. Okay, so Menace. So did Menace kitten die? So Menace, the little boy in the caravan, lost his kitten. He stretched out his arms toward the sun and prayed in tongue. So when he was praying, something weird in the sky was happening. And the villagers were like, huh? And then, but then after when the caravan left, all the cats in the village suddenly disappeared. Oh, so the burgomaster, I think the burgomaster is the leader of the village, maybe? And he blamed that the caravan took all the cats in revenge for killing their kid's kitten. But then the people also blamed it on the couple that kills cats. You don't have friends with cats? No. I don't. I mean, I do, but I don't like, it's like long distance, so I can't just walk up to the door and like, let me pet your cat. Can't do that. I mean, maybe. Okay. Next, next. Okay. Oh, and then the little boy. Wait, the little boy. Other little boy. Adel. He's like one letter word away for another word. Um, he said that he noticed that all the village cats surrounded the cottage of the couple. Oh, okay. I So Ulthar went to sleep in vain anger, and when the people awaked at dawn, behold, every cat was back at his accustomed hearth, large and small, black, gray, striped, yellow, and white. None was missing. Very sleek, and fat. Very sleek and fat did the cats appear, and sonorous with purring content. The citizens talked with one another of the affair, and marveled not a little. Old Cranan again insisted that it was the dark folk who had taken them, since cats did not return alive from the cottage of the ancient man and his wife. But all agreed on one thing, that the refusal of all cats to eat their proportion of meat, or drink their saucers of milk was exceedingly curious. And for 2 whole days, the sleek, lazy cats of Ulthar would touch no food, would only doze by the fire or in the sun. It was fully a week before the villagers noticed that no lights were appearing at dusk in the windows of the cottage under the trees. Then the lean Nith remarked that no one had seen the old man or his wife since the nights the cats were away. In another week, the Burgon master decided to overcome his fears and call at the strangely silent dwelling as a matter of duty, though in so doing he was careful not to take with him Shang, the blacksmith, and Thul, the cutter of stone, as witnesses. And when they had broken down the frail door, they found only this: 2 cleanly picked human skeletons on the earthen floor, and a number of singular beetles crawling in the shadowy corners. There was subsequently much talk among the burgesses of Ulthar. Zath, the coroner, disputed at length with Nith, the lean notary, and Cranon and Shang and Tool were overwhelmed with questions. Even little Adel, the innkeeper's son, was closely questioned and given a sweet meat as reward. They talked of the old cotter and his wife, of the caravan of dark wanderers, of small Menace and his black kitten, of the prayer of Menace and of the sky during that prayer, of the doings of the cats on the night the caravan left, and of what was later found in the cottage under the dark trees in the repellent yard. And in the end, the burgesses passed that remarkable law which is told of by traders in Hatheg, and discussed by travelers in Nith, namely that in Ulthar no man may kill a cat. The end. Wow. Okay. Ooh, that was a short story. I thought it'd take longer than usual, but that's actually not bad. That's a very short story. But that's the Cats of Ulthar. Ooh, the cats ate the couple. Nom 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 nom. Probably the little boy, when he did his prayer thing, it probably made the cats like go to the cottage and eat the old couple. At least they didn't describe more detail on the killing of the cats, cause no. But yes, that is the cat is the Cats of Ulthar. We are done with one. We are done with story one. I feel like this paragraph said the whole summary. Actually, yeah, this sentence is the whole summary of the story. The old cotter and his wife basically kills all the cats. Boom. Then the caravan of the dark wanderers arrive. And then in the caravan there's the boy and his kitten, but the kitten's gone, maybe because the couple killed him. And then Menace was sad and he said a prayer, and then the sky was weird. And then on that night the cats were like awoke. They were woke, and then they killed the couple. And then yay, no more killing of cats. Happy ending. That was a happy ending. Not a happy ending for the couple, but happy ending for the cats. So that is it. Next one. Man, how this was like the most I said about like most time I said cats in one stream. Okay. I'm gonna put backslashes, meaning it's done. Alright, there is Nyarlathotep, and then the Hunter of the Dark. I'm not sure if what the moon brings is long. Let me check that one. Oh. Oh, that one's not that long either. What the moon brings. The Haunter of the Dark. I think the Dunwich one is super long. Let me see. Let me check it again. I'm checking like the lengths of it. Oh yeah, that one's very long. I remember, of course, I've read this before and it's long. Why would I? But I'm down to read a long one too. But we can try a medium one. The Haunter of the Dark one. Wait, this is... Alright. Shouldn't be that bad. Wait. Come... Okay. I'll pick... The Haunter. The Haunter. Because I've been wanting to read that one. I was analyzing the links. Oh, I found this. I found the story of the witch one, the Witch of Dreams, something like that. The one we watched in our watch party the other time. The Dreams in the Witch House. Well, that one's a long one, but yeah, the guy's name was Walter and everything. Yeah, that's this one. I didn't read this one, so I did when I watched it. It didn't give much like lovecraft vibes, but then I got never mind. It's like an actual story he wrote. Maybe it was the adaptation. But anyways, the Hunter of the Dark. The Hunter of the Dark. I think that one's a little long. It's actually longer than Rats in the Walls. And Rats in the Walls was kind of long too. It took me like 2 streams to finish that one. Or maybe because I read a lot before that. But I can try to finish. Alright. Dun, 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 dun. Also, it's a very busy day today. I've noticed. It's Halloween, so I'm thank you guys for like that are here to listen. I'm just gonna just little old me. Same thing with me, just reading it to myself. Not that I read out loud, but you know, that's the only difference. I'm reading out loud. So I appreciate for listening. Hopefully my voice is okay to be like reading my reading voice. Try to not stutter as much. Alright, let's start The Hunter of the Dark. The Hunter of the Dark, dedicated to Robert Bloch. I have seen the dark universe yawning, where the black planets roll without aim, where they roll in their horror unheeded, without knowledge or luster or name. By Nemesis. That's a nice poem. Cautious investigators will hesitate to challenge the common belief that Robert Blake was killed by lightning or by some profound nervous shock derived from an electric discharge. It is true that the window he faced was unbroken, but nature has shown herself capable of many freakish performances. The expression on his face may easily have arisen from some obscure muscular source unrelated to anything he saw, while the entries in his diary are clearly the result of a fantastic imagination aroused by a certain local superstitions and by certain old matters that he had uncovered. As for the anomalies conditioned at the deserted church on Federal Hill, the shrewd analyst is not slow in attributing them to some charlatanry, conscious or unconscious, with at least some of which Blake was secretly connected. After all, the victim was a writer and painter, wholly devoted to the field of myth, dream, terror, and superstition, and avid in his quest for scenes and effects of a bizarre spectral sort. His earlier stay in the city, a visit to a strange old man as deeply given to occult and forbidden lore as he, had ended amidst death and flame, and it must have been some morbid instinct which drew him back from his home in Milwaukee. He may have known of the old stories, despite his statements to the contrary in a diary, and his death may have nipped in the bud some stupendous hoax destined to have a literary reflection. Alright, so what we got? What we got? I need to. So we got this guy, Robert Blake. Died. He died, and they refused that he was killed by lightning, but by some mystery thing. Oh my gosh. my dog is passing out. Oh. He got scared, he got spooked. I've seen Milwaukee all the time. Is it like commonplace? And then he died. And then he was a writer, a painter. His earlier stay in the city visit had ended in a midst of death. Okay, basically just. So he earlier in his stay in the city, he visited a strange old man who is also into occult and forbidden stuff. Alright, that's the scene. Alright, continue. Among those, however, who have examined and correlated all this evidence, there remain several who cling to less rational and commonplace theories. They are inclined to take much of Blake's diary at its face value, and point significantly to certain facts that as the undoubted geniuses of the old church record, and verified existence of the disliked and unorthodox Starry Wisdom sect prior to 1877, the recorded disappearance of an inquisitive reporter named Edwin M. Lillibridge in 1893, and above all, the look of monstrous, transfiguring fear on the face of the young writer when he died. It was one of these believers who, moved to fanatical extremes, threw into the bay the curiously angled stone and strangely adorned metal box found in the old church steeple, the black windowless steeple, and not the tower where Blake's diary said those things originally were. Though widely censored both officially and unofficially, this man, a reputable physician with a taste for odd folklore, averred that he had rid the earth of something too dangerous to rest upon it. Between these two schools of opinion, the reader must judge for himself. The papers have given the tangible details from a skeptical angle, leaving for others the drawing of the picture as Robert Blake saw it, or thought he saw it, or pretended to see it. Now, studying the diary closely, dispassionately, and at leisure, let us summarize the dark chain of events from the express point of view of their chief actor. Alright, reminiscing. Young Blake returned to Providence in the winter of 1934/5, taking the upper floor of a venerable dwelling in a grassy court off College Street, on the crest of the great eastward hill near the Brown University campus and behind the marble John Hay Library. It was a cozy and fascinating place, in a little garden oasis of village-like antiquity where huge, friendly cats sunned themselves atop a convenient shed. The square Georgian house had a monitor roof, classic doorway with a fan carving, small paned windows, and all the other earmarks of early 19th century workmanship. Inside were 6 panel doors, wide floorboards, a curving colonial staircase, white Adam period mantels, and a rear set of rooms 3 steps below the general level. Blake's study, a large southwest chamber, overlooked the front garden on one side, while its west windows, before one of which he had his desk, faced off from the brow of the hill and commanded a splendid view of the lower town's outspread roofs and of the mystical sunsets that flamed behind them. On the far horizon were the open countryside's purple slopes. Again these, some 2 miles away, rose the spectral hump of Federal Hill, bristling with huddled roofs and steeples whose remote outlines wavered mysteriously, taking fantastic forms as the smoke of the city swirled up and enmeshed them. Blake had a curious sense that he was looking upon some unknown, ethereal world which might or might not vanish in dream if ever he tried to seek it out and enter it in person. Having sent home for most of his books, Blake bought some antique furniture suitable to his quarters and settled down to write and paint, living alone and attending to the simple housework himself. His studio was in a north attic room, where the panes of the monitor roof furnished admirable lighting. During that first winter he produced 5 of his best-known short stories: The Burrower Beneath, The Stairs in the Crypt, Shagai in the Vale of the Nath, and Feaster from the Stars, and painted several canvases, studies of nameless, unhuman monsters, and profoundly alien non-terrestrial landscapes. At sunset, he would often sit at his desk and gaze dreamily off at the outspread west. The dark towers of Memorial Hall just below, the Georgian courthouse belfry, the lofty pinnacles of the downtown section, and that shimmering spider-crowned mound in the distance whose unknown streets and labyrinthine gables so potently provoked his fancy. From his few local acquaintances, he learned that the far-off slope was a vast Italian quarter, though most of the houses were remnants of old Yankee and Irish days. Now and then he would train his field glasses on that spectral, unreachable world beyond the curling smoke, picking out individual roofs and chimneys and steeples, and speculating upon the bizarre and curious mysteries they might house. Even with optical aid, Federal Hill seemed somehow alien, half fabulous, and linked to the unreal, intangible marvels of Blake's own tales and pictures. The feeling would persist long after the hill had phased into the violet, lamp-starred twilight, and the courthouse floodings and the red industrial trust beacon had blazed up to make the night grotesque. Okay. So this past few paragraphs were about like Blake when he was still alive. Basically, right now we just like read about the details of his stay and his view on the place. His view on in his study. So I'm assuming Federal Hill is like the hill he sees with the steeples. Yeah, just a dude chilling in his apartment, making banger stories and paintings. What a nice life. I want that. Alright, so Blake is chilling. Alright, next part. Of all of all the distant objects on Federal Hill, a certain large, dark church most fascinated Blake. It stood out with especial distinctness at certain hours of the day, and at sunset the great tower and tapering steeple loomed blackly against the flaming sky. It seemed to rest on especially high ground, for the grimy facade and obliquely seen north side with sloping roof and the tops of great pointed windows rose boldly above the tangle of surrounding ridgepoles and chimney pots. Peculiarly grim and austere, it appeared to be built of stone, stained and weathered with the smoke and storms of a century and more. The style, so far as the glass could show, was that earliest experimental form of Gothic revival which preceded the stately Upjohn period, and held over some of the outlines and proportions of the Georgian age. Perhaps it was reared around 1810 or 1815. As months passed, Blake watched the far-off forbidding structure with an oddly mounting interest. Since the vast windows were never lighted, he knew that it must be vacant. The longer he watched, the more his imagination worked, till at length he began to fancy curious things. He believed that a vague, singular area of desolation hovered over the place, so that even the pigeons and swallows shunned its smoky eaves. Around other towers and belfries his glass would reveal great flocks of birds, but here they never rested. At least that is what he thought and set down in his diary. He pointed the place out to several friends, but none of them had ever been on Federal Hill, or possessed the faintest notion of what the church was or had been. Ah. In the spring, a deep restlessness gripped Blake. He had begun his long-planned novel, based on a supposed survival of the witch cult in Maine, but was strangely unable to make progress with it. More and more he would sit at his westward window and gaze at the distant hill and the black, frowning steeple shunned by the birds. When the delicate leaves came out on the garden boughs, the world was filled with a new beauty. But Blake's restlessness was merely increased. It was then that he first thought of crossing the city and climbing boldly up the fabulous slope into the smoke-wreathed world of dream. Late in April, just before the aeon-shadowed Walpurgis time, Blake made his first trip into the unknown. Into the unknown? Plodding through the endless downtown streets and the bleak, decayed squares beyond, he came finally upon the ascending avenue of century-worn steps, sagging Doric porches, and bleared cupolas, which he felt must lead up to the long unknown, unreachable world beyond the mists. There were dingy blue and white street signs which meant nothing to him, and presently he noted the strange, dark faces of the drifting crowds, and foreign signs over curious shops in brown, decayed, weathered buildings. Nowhere could he find any of the objects he had seen from afar, so that once more he half fancied that the Federal Hill of that distant view was a dream world never to be trod by living human feet. Now and then a battered church facade or crumbling spire came in sight, but never the blackened pile that he sought. When he asked the shopkeeper about a great stone church, the man smiled and shook his head, though he spoke English freely. As Blake climbed higher, the region seemed stranger and stranger, with bewildering mazes of brooding brown alleys leading eternally off to the south. He crossed 2 or 3 broad avenues, and once thought he glimpsed a familiar tower. Again he asked the merchant about the massive church of stone, and this time he could have sworn that the plea of ignorance was feigned. The dark man's face had a look of fear which he tried to hide, and Blake saw him make a curious sign with his right hand. Curious sign. Then suddenly, a black spire stood out against the cloudy sky on his left, upon the tiers of brown roofs lining the tangled southerly alleys. Blake knew at once what it was, and plunged toward it through the squalid, unpaved lanes that climbed from the avenue. Twice he lost his way, but somehow he dared not ask any of the patriarchs or housewives who sat on their doorsteps, or any of the children who shouted and played in the mud of the shadowy lanes. Ooh. So, Blake went to a trip. He went out of his apartment, and he went out and finally visited the city that he sees in his window, and he found it odd. Was it odd? But some people did not. So he asked about the people. He asked people about the church. Some knew it, but some pretend not to know. What's a spire? A spire. A black spire. I'm gonna research what a spire is. Spire, noun. A tall structure. Oh, okay. A spire is a tall structure. So, okay. Then suddenly, oh, that's the church. So suddenly a black spire stood out against the cloudy sky on his left, above the tiers of brown roofs lining the tangled southerly alleys. Blake knew at once what it was, and plunged toward it through the squalid, unpaved lanes that climbed from the avenue. Twice he lost his way, but he somehow dared not ask any of the patriarchs or housewives who sat on the doors. Okay. Why is this guy so interested in a dark, gloomy church? Oh yeah, because he's interested in scary things, so I guess he's attracted to scary things. Okay. At last he saw the tower plain against the southwest, and a huge stone bulk rose darkly at the end of an alleyway. Presently he stood in a wind-swept open square, quaintly cobblestoned, with a high bank wall on the farther side. This was the end of his quest, for upon the wide, iron-railed, weed-grown plateau which the walls supported, a separate lesser world raised a fully 6 feet above the surrounding streets. There stood a grim, titan bulk whose identity, despite Blake's new perspective, was beyond dispute. The vacant church was in a state of great decrepitude. Some of the high stone buttresses had fallen, and several delicate finials lay half lost among the brown, neglected weeds and grasses. The sooty Gothic windows were largely unbroken, though many of the stone mullions were missing. Blake wondered how the obscurely painted panes could have survived so well, in view of the known habits of small boys the world over. The massive doors were intact and tightly closed. Around the top of the blank wall, fully enclosing the grounds, was a rusty iron fence whose gate, at the head of a flight of steps from the square, was visibly padlocked. The path from the gate to the building was completely overgrown. Desolation and decay hung like a pall above the place, and in the birdless eaves and black, ivorless walls, Blake felt a touch of the dimly sinister beyond his power to define. There were very few people in the square, but Blake saw a policeman at the northerly end and approached him with questions about the church. He was a great wholesome Irishman, and it seemed odd that he would do little more than make the sign of the cross and mutter that people never spoke of that building. When Blake pressed him, he said very hurriedly that the Italian priests warned everybody against it, vowing that a monstrous evil had once dwelled there and left its mark. He himself heard dark whispers of it from his father, who recalled certain sounds and rumors from his boyhood. There had been a bad sect there in the old days, an outlaw sect that called up awful things from some unknown gulf of the night. It had taken a good priest to exorcise what had come, though there did be those who said that merely the light could do it. If Father O'Malley were alive, there would be no many to think he could tell. But now there was nothing to do but let it alone. It hurt nobody now, and those that owned it were dead or far away. They had run away like rats after the threatening talk in '77, when people began to mind the way folks vanished now and then in the neighborhood. Some day the city would step in and take the property for lack of heirs, but little good would come of anybody's touching it. Better it be left alone for the years to topple, lest things be stirred that ought to rest forever in their black abyss. After the policeman had gone, Blake stood staring at the sullen steepled pile. It excited him to find that the structure seemed as sinister to others as to him, and he wondered what grain of truth might lie behind the old tales the blue coat had repeated. Probably they were mere legends evoked by the evil look of the place, but even so, they were like a strange coming to life of one of his own stories. Oh my gosh. This guy is obsessed with this church. He's like after interviewing the police, like, oh, the police was like, oh no, this church is, we don't talk about this church. It's scary. Sus stuff happened at this church. A monstrous presence. Where's that part? Where's that part? A monstrous evil had once dwelt there and left its mark. Okay. So, after hearing the story, it just made Blake more interested in it further. Okay, next part. That's a lot of talking. Okay. The afternoon sun came out from behind dispersing clouds, but seemed unable to light up the stained, sooty walls of the old temple that towered on its high plateau. It was odd that the green of spring had not touched the brown, withered growths in the raised iron fence yard. But Blake found himself edging. Oh my gosh! Thank you, Ryan. Why am I so jumpy? Okay, I'll get some water. Actually, yeah, I ran out of water, so I'll get water. Don't forget to drink water. You're gonna be talking a lot. Yep. I need water. My mouth is already getting dry. I need some water. I'll BRB. Okay, I'm back. Got water. I got water! Ah! How are you guys so far? I don't know why when I was reading and then the music like sometimes the music is quiet but then it would have these like random like bursts of sound and it just like makes me jump. It made me jump while I was reading. I was like and then the thirst for the I was like so it might be super jumpy. Appropriate. We in theme? Yes, we're in theme. I should have not taken a shower before because I'm so. You know when you take a shower, you get sleepy afterwards. I'm getting cozy but also sleepy. Okay, let's continue. Oh, this is a change of sound, so let me know if the sound is too loud or if the ambience is just right. I have to step away for a bit to cook dinner, but I'll be back. No worries, Brian. Nice, relaxing, warm showers are the best. Yep. Super warm. It's super warm. I'm gonna fall asleep, but I had to stay awake. I need to finish reading this story. Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh. Imagine reading this in a Valley Girl accent. Okay. Continue. Okay. Where were we? Where were we? Uh, where are we? Okay, there you go. The afternoon sun came from beyond. Oh my gosh. You were the Valley Girl accent. Or like, oh, I mean, alright, Brian. Fine. Oh my gosh. Like, you only got 5 minutes, totally. Only 5 minutes, alright. The afternoon sun came out from behind dispersing clouds, but seemed unable to light up the stained city walls of the old temple that towered on its high plateau. It was odd that the green of spring had not touched the brown withered growths. I just read this sentence. Oh, I mean, next paragraph. He was on the embankment and almost inside the fence before anyone noticed him. Then, looking down, he saw the few people in the square edging away, making the same sign with their right hands that the shopkeeper in the avenue had made. Like, several windows were slammed down, and a fat woman darted into the street and pulled some small children inside a rickety, unpainted house. The gap in the fence was very easy to pass through, and before long, Blake found himself waiting amidst the rotting, tangled growths of the deserted yard. Here and there, the worn stump of a headstone told him that there had once been burials in this field, but that he saw must have been very long ago. Like the sheer bulk of the church was oppressive now, that he was close to it, but he conquered his mood and approached to try the three great doors in the facade. All were securely locked, so he began a circuit of the Cyclopean building in quest of some minor and more penetrable opening. Even then, he could not be sure that he wished to enter the hall of desertion and shadow, yet the pull of its strangeness dragged him automatically. Okay. A yawning and unprotected cellar window in the rear furnished the needed aperture. What did I just say? In peering in, Blake saw a subterranean gulf of cobwebs and dust faintly litten by the western sun's filtered rays. Debris, old barrels, and ruined boxes, and furniture of numerous sorts met his eye, though some though over everything lay a shroud of dust which softened all sharp outlines. Like the rusted remains of a hot air furnace showed that the building had been used and in shape as late as mid-Victorian times. So vintage. Acting almost without conscious initiative, uh, my man Blake crawled through the window and let himself down to the dust-carpeted and debris-strewn concrete floor. The vaulted cellar was a vast one, without partitions, and in the corner far to the right, amid dense shadows, he saw a black archway, evidently leading to the stairs. He felt a peculiar sense of oppression at being within the great spectral building, but kept in check as he cautiously scouted about, finding a still intact barrel amidst the dust and rolling it over to open the window to provide for his exit. Then, bracing himself, he crossed the wide, cobweb festooned place toward the arch. Oh my gosh, why is this so hard to read? Half choked with the omnipresent dust and covered with ghostly gossamer fibers, he reached and began to climb the worn stone steps which rose into the darkness. He had no light, but groped carefully with his hands. Oh my gosh, wow. After a sharp turn, he felt a closed door ahead, and a little fumbling revealed its ancient latch. It opened inward, and beyond it he saw a dimly illuminated corridor lined with worm-eaten paneling. So gross. It's disgusting. So he just went up the stairs, right? Did he just go up an attic of this church thing? Like, why would you go in the church anyways? Like, no, not like in an abandoned scary church. That's what I meant. My gosh. Okay. On the ground floor, Blake began exploring in a rapid fashion. All the inner doors were unlocked, so that he freely passed from room to room. The colossal nave was an almost eldritch place, with its drifts and mountains of dust over box pews, altar hourglass pulpit, and sounding board, and its titanic ropes of cobwebs stretching among the pointed arches of the gallery and entwining the clustered Gothic columns. Overall, this hushed desolation played a hideous lead-in light as the declining afternoon sun sent its rays to the strange, blackened panes of the great apsidal windows. The paintings on those windows were so obscured by soot, gross, that Blake could scarcely decipher what they had represented, but from the little he could make out, he did not like them. The designs were largely conventional, and his knowledge of obscure symbolism told him much concerning some of the ancient patterns. The few saints depicted bore expressions distinctly upon criticism, while one of the windows seemed to show merely a dark space with spirals of curious luminosity scattered about in it. Okay. Turning away from the windows, Blake noticed that the cobweb cross above the altar was not of the ordinary kind, but resembled the primordial ankh or crux ansata of shadowy Egypt. Oh, okay. Valley Girl done. It's so hard to read in an accent. But yeah, he went in. Blake went in the church. Blake went in the church. He went up the stairs, I think the attic. He went upstairs. And then he saw paintings that were sus. He saw saints. Saints? Where? Okay. Back to reading, creepy reading mode. There's a lot of Egyptian. I feel like Lovecraft was interested in Egypt stuff. Egypt things. But yeah, in a rare vestry room beside the apse, Blake found a rotting desk and a ceiling high shelves of mildewed, disintegrated books. Here, for the first time, he received a positive shock of objective horror, for the titles of those books told him much. Ooh. They were the black, forbidden things which most sane people have never heard of, or have heard of only in furtive timorous whispers, the banned and dreaded repositories of equivocal secrets and immemorial formula which have trickled down the stream of time where, from the days of man's youth and the dim fabulous days from before man was. He had himself read many of them, a Latin version of the abhorred I can't, Necromonomicon, the sinister Liber Ivanus, and the infamous Cultus des Ghouls of Comte d'Erlet, and Unostrachlin Colton of Von Jokes, and old Ludwig Prince Hellish de Vermis Mysteris. But there were others he had known merely by reputation, or not at all. The narcotic manuscripts, the Book of Design, and a crumbling volume in wholly unidentifiable characters, yet with certain symbols and diagrams, and shudderingly recognizable to the occult student. Clearly, the lingering local rumors had not lied. This place had once been the seat of an older than mankind and wider than the known universe. Ugh, I can't read. He found books. He found sus books. I kind of want a copy. Just kidding. I mean, I already have the copy. In the ruined desk was a small leather-bound record book filled with entries in some odd cryptographic medium. The manuscript writing consisted of common traditional symbols used today in astronomy and anciently in alchemy, astrology, and other dubious arts. The devices of the sun, moon, planets, aspects, and zodiacal signs, here massed in the solid pages of text, with divisions and paragraphing suggesting that each symbol answered to some alphabetical letter. In the hope of later solving the cryptogram, Blake bore off this volume in his coat pocket. Many of the great tomes on the shelves fascinated him unutterably, and he felt tempted to borrow them at some later time. He wondered how they could have remained undisturbed for so long. Was he the first to conquer the clutching, pervasive fear which had for nearly 60 years protected this deserted place from visitors? Having now thoroughly explored the ground floor, Blake plowed again through the dust of the spectral nave to the front vestibule, where he had seen a door and staircase, presumably leading up to the blackened tower and steeple, objects so long familiar to him at a distance. The ascent was a choking experience, for dust lay thick, while spiders had done their worst in this constricted place. The staircase was a spiral with high, narrow wooden treads, and now and then Blake passed a double Blake passed a clouded window looking dizzily out over the city. Though he had seen no ropes below, he expected to find a bell or peal of bells in the tower whose narrow, lower-boarded lancet windows and his field glass had studied so often. Here he was doomed to disappointment, for when he attained the top of the stairs, he found the tower chamber vacant of chimes and clearly devoted to vastly different purposes. The room, about 15 feet square, was faintly lighted by 4 lancet windows, one on each side, which were glazed within their screening of decayed louverboards. These had been further fitted with tight, opaque screens, but the latter were now largely rotting away. In the center of the dust-laden floor rose a curiously angled stone pillar, some 4 feet in height and 2 in average diameter, covered on each side with bizarre, crudely incised and wholly unrecognizable hieroglyphics. On this pillar rested a metal box of peculiarly asymmetrical form, its hinged lid thrown back, and its interior holding what stood beneath the decade-deep dust to be an egg-shaped or irregularly spherical object, some 4 inches through. Around the pillar, in a rough circle, were 7 high-backed Gothic chairs, still largely intact, while behind them, ranging along the dark paneled walls, were 7 colossal images of crumbling black-painted plaster, resembling more than anything else the cryptic carven megaliths of mysterious Easter Island. In one corner of the cobwebbed chamber, a ladder was built into the wall, leading up to the closed trapdoor of the windowless steeple above. As Blake grew accustomed to the feeble light, he noticed odd bas reliefs on the strange open box of yellowish metal. Approaching, he tried to clear the dust away with his hands and handkerchief, and saw that the figurines were of a monstrous and utterly alien kind, depicting entities which, though seemingly active, resembled no known life form ever evolved on this planet. The 4-inch seeming sphere turned out to be a nearly black, red-striated polyhedron with many irregular flat surfaces, either a very remarkable crystal of some sort, or an artificial object of carved and highly polished mineral matter. It did not touch the bottom of the box, but was held suspended by means of a metal band around its center, with 7 clearly designed supports extending horizontally to angles of the box's inner wall near the top. This stone, once exposed, exerted upon Blake an almost alarming fascination. He could scarcely tear his eyes away from it, and as he looked at its glistening surfaces, he almost fancied it was transparent, with half-formed worlds of wonder within. Into his mind floated pictures of alien orbs with great stone towers, and other orbs with titan mountains and no mark of life, and still remoter places where only a stirring in vague blacknesses told of the presence of consciousness and will. When he did look away, it was just to notice a somewhat singular mound of dust in the far corner near the ladder up to the steeple. Just why it took his attention he could not tell, but something in its contours carried a message to his unconscious mind. Plowing toward it and brushing aside the hanging cobwebs as he went, he began to discern something grim about it. Hand and handkerchief seen revealed the truth, and Blake gasped, with a baffling mixture of emotions. It was a human skeleton, and it must have been there for a very long time. The clothing was in shreds, but some buttons and fragments of cloths bespoke a man's gray suit. There were other bits of evidence: shoes, metal clasps, huge buttons for round cuffs, a stick pin of bygone pattern, a reporter's badge with the name of the old Providence Telegram, and a crumbling leather pocketbook. Blake examined the latter with care, finding within it several bills of antiquated issue, a celluloid advertising calendar for 1893, some cards with the name Edwin M. Lillibridge, and a paper covered with penciled memoranda. This paper had much of a puzzling nature, and Blake read it carefully at the dim westward window. Its disjointed text included such phrases as the following: Professor Enoch Bowen home from Egypt, May 1844, buys old Free Will Church in July. His archaeological work of studies in occult well known. Dr. Drown of Fourth Baptist warns against storing wisdom in sermon December 19, 1844. Congregation 97 by end of 45, 1846, blah blah blah. 3 disappearances. First mention of shining trapezohedron. 7 disappearances. 1848. Stories of blood sacrifice begin. Investigation, 1853. Comes to nothing. Stories of sounds. Friar O'Malley tells of devil worship with box found in great Egyptian ruins. Says they call up something that they can't exist in light. Flees a little light and banished by strong light. Then has to be summoned again. Probably got this from deathbed confession of Francis X. Feeney, who had joined studying wisdom at 49. These people say the shining trapezohedron shews them heaven and other words, and that the haunter of the dark tells them secrets in some way. Story of Orrin B. Eddy, 1857. They call it up by gazing at the crystal and have a secret language of their own. 200 or more in Congress. 1863, exclusive of men at front. Irish boys mob church in 1869 after Patrick Heed Regan's disappearance. Veiled article in John J. March 1472, but people don't talk about it. 6 disappearances, 1876. Secret committees calls on Mayor Doyle. Action promised, February 1877. Church closes in April. Gang. Federal hillboys threaten doctor and vestryman in May. 181 persons leave city before end of 77. Mention no names. Ghost stories begin around 1880. Try to a certain truth of report that no human being has entered the church since 1877. Aslanidin photograph of place taken in 1851. Whew! So that was all the evidence. That was on the. So all this was on the dead reporter's paper on his notebook. So I guess he was investigating about the church, and I guess this was supposedly the church's history, according to witness stuff. I kind of want to keep a notebook like that, just investigation notebook, observation notebook. Okay. Oh wait, forgot to change the title. Oh, I wrote the Cats of Ulthar. It's supposed to be the Cats of Ulthar. This one's the Hunter in the Dark. Oh. Okay. I updated the title. Restoring the paper to the pocketbook and placing the letter in his coat, Blake turned to look down at the skeleton in the dust. The implications of the notes were clear, and there could be no doubt that this man had come to the deserted edifice 40 years before in quest of a newspaper sensation which no one else had been bold enough to attempt. Perhaps no one else had known of his plan. Who could tell? But he had never returned to his paper. Had some bravely suppressed fear risen to him to overcome him and bring a sudden heart failure? But had some bravely suppressed fear risen to overcome him and bring on some sudden heart failure? Blake stooped up over the gleaming bones and noted. Oh my gosh, I'm stuttering so much. Blake stooped over the gleaming bones and noted their peculiar state. Some of them were badly scattered, and a few seemingly oddly dissolved at the ends. Others were strangely yellowed, with vague suggestions of charring. This charring extended to some of the fragments of clothing. The skull was in a very peculiar state, stained yellow, and with a charred aperture in the top of it, as if some powerful acid had eaten through the solid bone. What had happened to the skeleton during its 4 decades of silent entombment? Here Blake could not imagine. Before he realized it, he was looking at the stone again and letting its curious influence call up a nebulous pageantry in his mind. He saw processions of robed, hooded figures whose outlines were not human, and looked on endless leagues of desert lined with carved, sky-reaching monoliths. He saw towers and walls in lighted depths under the sea, and vortices of space where wisps of black mist floated before thin shimmerings of purple haze. And beyond all else, he glimpsed an infinite gulf of darkness, where solid and semi-solid forms were known only by their windy stirrings, and cloudy patterns of force seemed to superimpose order on chaos and hold forth the key to all the paradoxes and arcana of the world we know. Then all at once the spell was broken by an access of gnawing, indeterminate panic fear. Blake choked and turned away from the stone, conscious of some formless alien presence close to him and watching him with horrible intentness. He felt entangled with something which was not in the stone, but which had looked through it at him, something which would ceasingly follow him with a cognition that was not physical sight. Plainly, the place was getting on his nerves, as well it might in view of his gruesome find. The line was waning too, and since he had no illuminant with him, he knew he would have to be leaving soon. It was then, in the gathering twilight, that he thought he saw a faint trace of luminosity in the crazily angled stone. He had tried to look away from it, but some obscure compulsion drew his eyes back. Was there a subtle phosphorescence of radioactivity about the thing? What was it that the dead man's notes had said concerning a shining trapezohedron? Anyway, was this abandoned lair of cosmic evil? What had been done here, and what might still be lurking in the bird-shunned shadows? It seemed now as if an elusive touch of fever had arisen somewhere close by, though its source was not apparent. Blake seized the cover of the long open box and snapped it down. It moved easily on its alien hinges and closed completely over the unmistakably glowing stone. At the sharp click of that closing, a soft stirring sound seemed to come from the steeple's eternal blackened overhead, beyond the trapdoor. Rats, without question, the only living things to reveal their presence in this accursed pile since he had entered it. And yet, that stirring in the steeple frightened him horribly, so that he plunged almost wildly down the spiral stairs, across the goalless nave, into the vaulted basement, and amidst the gathering dusk of the deserted square, and down through the teeming, fear-haunted alleyways and avenues of Federal Hill toward the sane central streets and the home-like brick sideways of the college district. During the days which followed, Blake told no one of his expedition. Instead, he read much in certain books, examined long tiers of newspaper files downtown, and worked feverishly at the cryptogram in the leather volume from the cobweb vestry room. The cipher, he soon saw, was no simple one, and after a long period of endeavor, he felt sure that its language could not be English, Latin, Greek, French, Spanish, Italian, or German. Evidently, he would have to draw upon the deepest wells of his strange erudition. Every evening, the old impulse to gaze westward returned, and he saw the black steeple as of yore amongst the bristling roofs of a distant and half-fabulous world. But now it held a fresh note of terror for him. He knew the heritage of evil Lord Mast, and with the knowledge his vision ran riot in queer new ways. The birds of spring were returning, and as he watched their sunset flights, he fancied they avoided the gaunt lone spire as ever before. When a flock of them approached it, he thought they would wheel and scatter in panic confusion, and he could guess at the wild twitterings, which failed to reach him across the intervening miles. It was in June that Blake's diary told of his victory over the cryptogram. The text was, he found, in the dark Aklo language used by certain cults of evil antiquity. Oh no, this man's researching cults. And known to him in a halting way through previous researches. The diary is strangely reticent about Blake deciphered. The diary is strangely reticent about what Blake deciphered, but he was painfully awed and disconcerted by his results. There are references to a hunter of the dark awakened by gazing into the shining trapezohedron, and insane conjectures about the black gulfs of chaos from which it was called. That being is spoken of as holding all knowledge and demanding monstrous sacrifices. Some of Blake's entries show fear lest the thing, which he seemed to regard as summoned, stalk abroad, though he adds that the streetlights from Bulwark, which cannot be crossed. Of the shining trapezohedron he speaks often, calling it a window on all time and space, and tracing its history from the days it was fashioned on dark Yugoth before ever the old ones brought it to earth. It was treasured and placed in its curious box by the crinoid things of Antarctica, salvaged from the ruins by the serpentmen of Volusia, and peered at aeons later in by Lemuria by the first human beings. It crossed strange lands and stranger seas, and sank with Atlantis before a Minoan fisher meshed it in his net and sold it to swarthy merchants from Knighted Clem. The pharaoh Nebren-Ka built around it a temple with a windowless crypt, and did that which caused his name to be stricken from all monuments and records. Then it slept in the ruins of that evil fane, which the priests and the new pharaoh destroyed, till the delvers bade once more brought it forth to curse mankind. Okay, we got info. So the stone he was staring at earlier in the church was called the shining trapezohedron. I kind of want to search it and stare at it myself. Do you guys want to stare at the shining trapezohedron? I'm gonna take a search. I'm gonna search it. Hehe. What if I like? Oh, it looks like a jewel. Wow, it looks pretty. It kind of looks like a jobstone in Final Fantasy. It's a stone. Basically a jewel. Oh no, I'm looking at it. It was fashioned. Okay. Early in July. Oh, I read this part. Did I read this part? Okay. Never, I didn't read this part. Early in July, the newspapers oddly supplement Blake's entries, though in so brief and casual a way that only the diary has called general attention to their contribution. It appears that a few fear has been growing on Federal Hill since a stranger had entered the dreaded church. The Italians whispered of unaccustomed stirrings and bumpings and scrapings in the dark windowless steep, and called on their priests to banish an entity which haunted their dreams. Something, they said, was constantly watching at a door to see if it were dark enough to venture forth. Press items mentioned the long-standing local superstitions, but failed to shed much light on the earlier background of the horror. It was obvious that the young reporters of today are no antiquarians. In writing of these things in his diary, Blake expresses a curious kind of remorse and talks of the duty of burying the shining trapezohedron and of banishing he had evoked by letting daylight into the hideous jutting spire. At the same time, however, he displays the dangerous extent of his fashion and admits a morbid longing, pervading even his dreams to visit the accursed tower and gaze again into the cosmic secrets of the glowing stone. I don't know if you guys hear that. Don't worry, the place is not on fire. Okay, we're good. The fire alarm. I don't know if you guys heard the fire alarm in the background. My fire alarm went off. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's back again. Ah, it's back. It's because I was staring at the tetrahedron, huh? Maybe that's why. I swear. Okay, forget about the fires. We're gonna keep reading. So the Italians. Okay. Okay, let's continue. Okay. Actually, I'll BRB. I'm gonna get some food. I haven't had breakfast yet, so I'll BRB quick. So we're gonna leave off at the secrets of the glowy stone. Okay, that's where I left off in the sentence. BRB. I'm back! I'm back. I just went down to get some real food. Okay. Okay, I got my food. I am now. Hopefully, not make me sleepy. I think it'll make me sleepy because I think food makes you sleepy if you eat a lot. So hopefully, I won't eat when I'm reading. So, I'm gonna get quick bites, just a few bites in, and then munch, and I'll continue. Okay. So quick summary. Let me try to summarize so what I understand. Blake went to the church because he was so curious, and then he went upstairs. He saw a book. He got the book. He got a sus book, and then he went I think he went higher up the stairs to where the steeple is, and then he saw a pillar, and then on the pillar there was like a box with the what's it called, the shining tetrahedron something, and then he saw a skeleton, and then the skeleton had he was a reporter, and then had like a notebook. Sorry. um, and then yeah, he got evidence on his notebook. Where's the notebook stuff? Oh, that's the end. Oops, don't spoil. Yeah, and then he spent a long time trying to decipher what was in the notebook. I think, did he decipher it? Was he able to decipher? Okay. Apparently, they were also publishing his stuff from this diary. I think that's what I was getting. The newspaper oddly supplement Blake's entries. So they did put his diary entries in the newspaper. And then ever since he's visited the church, the people around it were like noticing weird things. It's because Blake looked at the jewel thingy. At the same time, however, he displays the dangerous extent of his fascination and admits a morbid longing pervading even his dreams to visit the cursed tower and gaze into the cosmic secrets of glowing stone. Okay, that's where we stopped at. Alright. Oh, we're almost done. Now, why was this quicker? Alright. Let's continue. Then something in the journal on the morning of July 17 threw the diarist into a veritable fever of horror. It was only a variant of the other half-humorous items about the Federal Hill of Restlessness, but to Blake it was somehow very terrible indeed. In the night, a thunderstorm had to put the city's lighting system out of commission for a full hour, and in that interval the Italians had nearly gone mad with fright. Those living near the dreaded church had sworn that the thing in the steeple had taken advantage of the street lamp's absence and gone into the body of the church, flopping and bumping around in a viscous, altogether dreadful way. Toward the last, it had bumped up to the tower, where there were sounds of the shattering of glass. It could go wherever the darkness reached, but light would always send it fleeing. When the current blazed on again, there had been a shocking commotion in the tower, for even the feeble light trickling through the grime-blackened, louver-boarded windows was too much for the thing. It had bumped and slithered up into its tenebrous steeple just in time, for a long dose of light would have sent it back into abyss whence the crazy stranger had called it. During the dark hour, praying crowds had clustered around the church in the rain, with lighted candles and lamps, somehow shielded with folded paper and umbrellas, a guard of light to save the city from the nightmare that stalks in the darkness. Once, those nearest the church had declared the outer door had rattled hideously. But even this was not the worst. That evening in the bulletin, Blake read of what the reporters had found. Aroused at last to the whimsical news value of the scare, a pair of them had defied the frantic crowds of Italians and crawled into the church through the cellar window after trying the doors in vain. They found the dust of the vestibule and of the spectral nave plowed up in a singular way, with bits of rotted cushions and satin pew linings scattered curiously around. There was a bad odor everywhere, and here and there were bits of yellow stain and patches of what looked like charring. Opening the door to the tower and pausing a moment at the suspicion of a scraping sound above, they found the narrow spiral stairs wiped roughly clean. In the tower itself, a similarly half-swept condition existed. They spoke of the heptagonal stone pillar, the overturned Gothic chairs, and the bizarre plaster images, though, strangely enough, the metal box and the old mutilated skeleton were not mentioned. What disturbed Blake the most, except for the hints of stains and charring and bad odors, was the final detail that explained the crashing glass. Every one of the tower's lancet windows were broken, and two of them had been darkened in a crude and hurried way by the stuffing of satin pew linings and cushioned horsehair into the spaces between the slanting exterior louverboards. More satin fragments and bunches of horsehair lay scattered around the newly swept floor, as if someone had been interrupted in the act of restoring the tower to the absolute blackness of its tightened curtain days. Yellowish stains and charred patches were found on the ladder to the windowless spire. But when the reporter climbed up, opened the horizontally sliding trapdoor, and shot a feeble flashlight beam into the black and strangely foetid space, he saw nothing but darkness, and the heterogeneous litter of shapeless fragments near the aperture. The verdict, of course, was charlatanry. Somebody had played a joke on the superstitious hill-dwellers, or else some fanatic had driven to bolster up their fears for their own supposed good. Or perhaps some of the younger and more sophisticated dwellers had staged an elaborate hoax on the outside world. There was an amusing aftermath when the police sent an officer to verify the reports. 3 men in succession found ways of evading the assignment, and the 4th went very reluctantly and returned very soon without adding to the account given by the reports. From this point onward, Blake's diary shows a mounting tide of insidious horror and nervous apprehension. He upbraids himself for not doing something, and speculates wildly on the consequences of another electrical breakdown. It has been verified that on 3 occasions, during thunderstorms, he telephoned the electric light company in a frantic vein and asked that desperate precautions against a lapse of power be taken. Now and then his entries show concern over the failure of the reporters to find the metal box and stone, and the strangely marred old skeleton when they explored the shadowy towered room. He assumed that these things had been removed, whither and by whom or what, he could only guess. But his worst fears concerned himself, and the kind of unholy rapport he felt to exist between his mind and that lurking horror in the distant steeple, that monstrous sting of night which his rashness had called out of the ultimate black spaces. He seemed to a constant tugging at his will, and callers of that period remember how he would sit abstractly at his desk and stare out of the west window of that far-off, spire-bristling mound beyond the swirling smoke of the city. His entries dwell monotonously on certain terrible dreams, and of a strengthening of the unholy rapport in his sleep. There is mention of a night when he awaked to find himself fully dressed, outdoors, and headed automatically down College Hill towards the west. Again and again he dwells on the fact that the thing in the steeple knows where to find him. Okay. So Blake is concerned when the authorities go into the church and find nothing that he saw is gone. Okay. The week following, July 30, is recalled as a time of Blake's partial breakdown. He did not dress and ordered all his food by telephone. Isn't isn't that a mood though? He did not dress and ordered all his food by telephone. Uber Eats. Visitors remarked the cords he kept near his bed, and he said that sleepwalking had forced him to bind his ankles every night with knots, which would probably hold or else waken him with the labor of untying. In his diary, excuse me, in his diary, he told of the hideous experience which had brought the collapse. After retiring on the night of the 30th, he had suddenly found himself groping about in an almost blank space. All he could see were short, faint, horizontal streaks of bluish light, and he could smell an overpowering odor and hear a curious jumble of soft, furtive sounds above him. Whenever he moved, he stumbled over something, and at each noise there would come a sort of answering sound from above, a vague stirring mixed with the cautious sliding of wood on wood. Once his groping hands encountered a pillar of stone with a vacant top, whilst later he found himself clutching the rungs of a ladder built into the wall and fumbling his uncertain way upward toward some region of incenser stench where a hot, searing blast beat down against him. Before his eyes a kaleidoscopic range of phantasmal images played, all of them dissolving at intervals into the picture of a vast unplumbed abyss of night, wherein world suns and the world of even unprofounder blackness. He thought of the ancient legends of ultimate chaos, at whose central sprawls the blind idiot god Azathoth, lord of all things, encircled by his flopping horde of mindless and amorphous dancers, and lulled by the thin monotonous piping of a demonic flute held in nameless paws. Then a short report from the outer world broke through his stupor and roused him to the unutterable horror of his position. What it was he never knew. Perhaps it was some belated peal from the fireworks heard all summer on Federal Hill, as the dwellers hailed their various patron saints, or the saints of their native villages in Italy. In any event, he shrieked aloud, dropped frantically from the ladder, and stumbled blindly across the obstructed floor of the almost lightless chamber that encompassed him. Did he went to the other dimension? He went to the dimension. Cause Azathoth is not in the it's a different dimension. Was he daydreaming? Maybe because when he looked at the stone, he's like probably unlocked his third eye. He knew instantly where he was, and plunged recklessly down the narrow spiral staircase, tripping and bruising himself at every turn. There was a nightmare flight through a vast cobwebbed nave whose ghost arches reached up to realms of leering shadow, a sightless scramble through a littered basement, a climb of regions of air and streetlights outside, and a mad racing down a spectral hill of gibbering gables, across a grim, silent city of tall black towers, and up the steep eastward precipice to his own ancient door. On regaining consciousness in the morning, he found himself lying on his study floor, well dressed. Dirt and cobwebs covered him, and every inch of his body seemed more sore and bruised. When he faced the mirror, he saw that his hair was badly scorched, while a trace of strange, evil odor seemed to cling to his outer clothing. It was then that his nerves broke down. Thereafter, lounging exhaustedly about in a dressing gown, he did little but stare from his west window, shiver at the threat of thunder, and make wild entries in his diary. The great storm broke just before midnight on August 8th. Lightning struck repeatedly in all parts of the city, and two remarkable fireballs were reported. The rain was torrential, while the constant fusillade of thunder brought sleepless to thousands. Blake was utterly frantic in his fear for the lighting system and tried to telephone the company around 1 a.m., though by that time service had been temporarily cut off in the interest of safety. He recorded everything in his diary. The large, nervous, and often undecipherable hieroglyphics telling their own story of growing frenzy and despair, and of entries sprawled blindly in the dark. He had to keep the house dark in order to see out the window, and it appears that most of his time was spent at his desk, peering anxiously through the rain, across the glistening miles of downtown roofs, at the constellation of distant lights marking Federal Hill. Now and then he would go fumbling, making an entry in his diary, so that it detached phrases such as, "The lights must not go," "It knows where I am," "I must destroy it," and "It is calling me, but perhaps it means no injury this time," are found scattering down 2 of the pages. Then the lights went out all over the city. It happened at 2:12 a.m., according to Powerhouse records, but Blake's diary gives no indication of the time. The entry is merely, "Lights out. God help me." On Federal Hill, there were watchers as anxious as he, and rain-soaked knots of men paraded the square and alleys around the evil church with umbrella-shaped candles, electric flashlights, oil lanterns, crucifixes, and obscure charms of the many sorts common to southern Italy. They blessed each flash of lightning, and made cryptical signs of fear with their right hands when a turn in the storm caused the flashes of lights to lessen and finally ceased altogether. A rising wind blew out of the candles so that the scene grew threateningly dark. Someone roused Father Merluso of Spirito Santo Church, and he hastened to the dismal square to pronounce whatever helpful syllables he could. Of the restless and curious sounds in the blackened tower, there could be no doubt whatever. For what happened at 2:35, we have the testimony of the priest, a young, intelligent, and well-educated person, of Patrolman William J. Monahan of the Central Station, an officer of the highest reliability, who had paused at that part of his beat to inspect the crowd, and most of the 78 men who had gathered around the church's high bank wall, especially those in the square where the eastward facade was visible. Of course, there was nothing which can be proved as being outside the order of nature. The possible causes of such an event were many. No one can speak with certainty of the obscure chemical processes arising in a vast, ancient, ill-aired, and long-deserted building of heterogeneous contents. Mephitic vapors, spontaneous combustion, pressure of gases born of long decay, any one of numberless phenomena might be responsible. And then, of course, the factor of conscious charlatanry can by no means be excluded. The thing was really quite simple in itself, and covered less than 3 minutes of actual time. Father Meluso, always a precise man, looked at his watch repeatedly. It started with a definite swelling of the dull, fumbling sounds inside the black tower. Ah, the light. There had for some time been a vague exhalation of strange, evil odors from the church, and this had now become emphatic, and offensive. Then at last there was a sound of splintering wood, and a large, heavy object crashed down in the yard beneath the frowning easterly facade. The tower was invisible now that the candles would not burn, but as the object neared the ground, the people knew that it was the smoke-grimmed louver boarding of that tower's east window. Immediately afterward, an utterly and unbearable odor welled forth from the unseen heights, choking and sickening the trembling watchers and almost prostrating those in the square. At the same time, the air trembled with a vibration as of flapping wings, and a sudden east-blowing wind, more violent than any previous blast, snatched off the hats and wrenched the dripping umbrellas of the crowd. Nothing Nothing definite could be seen in the candleless light, though some upward-looking spectators thought they glimpsed a great spreading blur of denser blackness against the inky sky, something like a formless cloud of smoke that shot with meteor-like speed toward the east. That was all. The watchers were half-numbered with fright, awe, and discomfort, and scarcely knew what to do, or whatever to do anything at all. Not knowing what had happened, they did not relax their vigil, and a moment later they sent up a prayer as a sharp flash of belated lightning, following by an ear-splitting crash of sound, rent the flooded heavens. Half an hour later, the rain stopped, and in 15 minutes more, the street light sprang on again, sending the weary, bedraggled watchers relievedly back to their homes. The next day's papers gave these matters minor mention in connection with the general storm reports. It seems that the great lightning flash and the deafening explosion which followed the Federal Hill occurrence were even more tremendous farther east, where a burst of the singular fodor was likewise noticed. Is fodor smell? I think fodor is smell. Fodor is smell! Okay, that was it. Don't mind the stretch noises. Okay. The phenomenon the phenomenon was most marked over College Hill, where the crash awaked all the sleeping inhabitants and led to a bewildered round of speculation. Of those who were already awake, only a few saw the anomalous blaze of light near the top of the hill, or noticed the inexplicable upward rush of air which almost stripped the leaves from the trees and blasted the plants in the gardens. It was agreed that the lone, sudden lightning bolt must have struck everywhere in this neighborhood, though no trace of its striking could afterward be found. A youth in the Tau Omega fraternity house thought he saw a grotesque and hideous mass of smoke in the air, just as a preliminary flash burst, but his observation has not been verified. All of the few observers, however, agree as to the violent gust from the west and the flood of intolerable stench which preceded the belated stroke, whilst evidence concerning the momentary burnt odor after the smoke is equally general. These points were discussed very carefully because of their probable connection with the death of Robert Blake. Students in the Psi Delta house, whose upper rear windows looked at Blake's study, noticed the blurred white face at the westward window on the morning of the 9th, and wondered what was wrong with the expression. When they saw the same face in the position that evening, they felt worried, and watched for the lights to come up in his apartment. Later, they rang the bell of the darkened flat, and finally had a policeman open the door. The rigid body sat bolt upright at the desk by the window, and when the intruder saw the glassy, bulging eyes and the marks of stark, convulsive fright on the twisted features, they turned away in sickened dismay. Shortly afterward, the coroner's physician made an examination, and despite the unbroken window, reported electrical shock or nervous tension induced by electrical charge as the cause of death. The hideous expression he ignored altogether, deeming it a not improbable result of the profound shock as experienced by a person of such abnormal imagination and unbalanced emotions. He deduced these later qualities from the books, paintings, and manuscripts found in the apartment, and from the blindly scrawled entries in the diary on the desk. Blake had prolonged his frenzied jottings to the last, and the broken pointed pencil was found clutched in his spasmodically contracted right hand. That's scary. You find like a guy who had like a scary face. Like you would like walk past by, you see a guy in the window like with a terrified expression, and then you come back and then you see that guy still with the same terrified expression, frozen, staring at his window. That's so scary. Oh, hello, Oyafumi. Hello. Happy spoopies. Happy spoopies. A little spooked from that last passage I read. So I don't know if you see a guy just staring in the window, frozen and terrified, and then later you come back and the guy's still the same. That's creepy. I would be creeped. I'm scared. That's creepy. How are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm a bit sleepy. Maybe I put the cool. Somehow this atmospheric music is very sleepy and calming. I really like it, but I'm probably no. I must stay awake. Stay awake. I need to finish the story. I need to know. But yeah, that's super creepy. But yeah, I think the guy died out of fear of what he saw. Is it possible to die out of fear? Are you reading bedtime stories for yourself? Basically, yeah. Reading reading a scary story to myself. Okay. Continue. That's scary. I don't want. Okay, where are we? Yeah, I don't want. Okay, imagine if your job is a. What do they call it? What do they call those people that like determine the deaths of people? I'm forgetting words at the moment. Like they analyze the cause of death. I don't want that job. That's scary. Because then the guy probably seen tons of dead bodies. He didn't pay mind to the dead, like to the guy's face, the twisted face, when he was analyzing his body. I would be scared. I don't want to look at their faces. Okay. Anyways, continue. Okay, where are we? Blake's death, blah blah blah. Blake, these pointer discovered. Yeah, so yeah, the rigid body sat upright. The shooter saw the glassy, bulging eyes. Okay, that's so scary. And anyways, yeah. So the guy died, and now he left his diary, and his diary was just all scribbles of maybe probably what he saw. But anyways, let's see what he has to say. The entries after the failure of the lights were highly disjointed and legible only in part. From them, certain investigators have drawn conclusions differing greatly from the materialistic official verdict, such as speculations have little chance for belief among the conservative. The case of these imaginative theorists has not been helped by the action of superstitious by Dr. Detector, who threw the curious box and angle stone, an object certainly self-luminous as seen in the black windowless steeple where it was found, into the deep channel of Narragansett Bay. Excessive imagination and neurotic unbalance on Blake's part, aggravated by knowledge of the evil bygone cult, whose startling traces he had uncovered, formed the dominant interpretation given those final frenzied jottings. These are the entries, or all that can be made of them. Light's still out. Must be 5 minutes now. Everything depends on lightning. Yadith Granite will keep up. Some influence seems being through it. Rain and thunder and wind deafen. The thing is taking hold of my mind. Trouble with memory, I see things I never knew before. Other worlds and other galaxies. Dark. The lightning seems dark, and the darkness seems light. It cannot be it cannot be the real hill and church that I see in the pitch darkness. Must be the retinal impressions left by flashes. Heaven grant the Italians are out with their candles if the lightning stops. What am I afraid of? Is it not an avatar of Nyarlathotep, who in antique and shadowy Kem even took the form of man? I remember Yugoth, and more distant Shagai, and the ultimate void of the black planets. The long winging flight through the void, cannot across the universe of the light, recreated by the thoughts of the shining in the shining trapezohedron, send it through the horrible abysses of radiance. My name is Blake, Robert Harrison Blake of 620 East Knapp Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am on this planet. As a thought, have mercy. The lightning no longer flashes horrible. I can see everything with a monstrous sense that is not sight. Light is dark, and dark is light. Those people on the hill, guard, candles and charms, they're priests. Sense of distance gone, far is near and near is far. No light, no glass. See that steeple, that tower, window, can hear. Roderick Usher, am mad or going mad. The thing is stirring and fumbling in the tower. I am it, and it is I. I want to get out. I must get out and unify the forces. It knows where I am. I am Robert Blake, but I see the tower in the dark. There was a monstrous odor, senses transfigured, boarding at the towered window, cracking and giving away. Yeah, yuck. I see it coming here. Well-end, titan blur, black wings. Nyarlathotep save me, the three-lobed burning eye. And that's the end of the story. Rest in peace, Blake. Oh no. Man. So, Blake must have seen a lot of things. Poor guy. He probably saw my family members. I see my man Yugoth, man, my dude Shagai. Ooh, how's he doing? But yeah, I'm not sure if he was like, he died by out of fear, out of seeing all the stuff he did, or his soul got sucked away by the being in the steeple. By the being in the steeple, cause this part it says, am I going mad or going mad? The thing is stirring and fumbling in the tower. I am it, and it is I. I want to get out. Must get out and unify the forces. It knows where I am. So I feel like the monster, I don't know if the monster took his soul and kind of like, and the monster want, since he got his soul, he kind of like connected with the monster, like, oh, this is what the monster wants to do, you know? But yeah, he got insane in his diary. And that is the story we finished. We finished The Hunter in the Dark. I wonder if the Cabinet of Curiosities can also adapt this one. But I feel like this is more it's on the shorter side. I can't believe I read all this. I can't believe I read all that. But yeah, that is The Hunter in the Dark. I like the nice call outs. Oh, okay, wrong one. Cracats is finishing it. Yeah, I feel like this one was longer than the one I read last year, which was I read Rats in the Walls, and that was shorter than this one. But it took me 2 streams to finish. Or maybe because I read a lot on that stream. But yeah, this is the second one I read this stream. Okay, let's see. We finished. Let's. Oops. Okay. We finished The Haunter in the Dark. So I'm gonna. Okay. Alright. Since this will be a short stream, I'm gonna read one more. Wow, 2 hours passed by so quickly. We're gonna read, I guess I'm gonna read the short one. And then I think that's all. Alright, let's read one more. I'm gonna read Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep, yeah, Nyarlathotep. It's hard to pronounce, I think it's not, that one's pretty short. But that's okay. I mean, I just read a big one. Oh, it's not that short though, but it's medium length. Does anyone know any knowledge of eldritch stuff, monsters from the Lovecraft lore? Because I've like, so you know, I'm like a eldritch detective. I have to know these things, so I've been doing some research, and I've been like, it's like me watching like those anime videos of like power scaling in shonen, like who's stronger. Power scaling, so I was like researching the power scaling between the Lovecraft monsters. And I was like, ooh. And I guess apparently one of the monsters, Nyarlathotep, is one of the strong ones. I only know from what I've seen in movies and a bit from the books. Ooh, which ones do you know of? Which one? I know Cthulhu-san is the popular one. Cthulhu-san, I don't know. I know he's related though. That's all I know. That's all I know. But yeah, he's the famous one in the family. He's the famous one in the family. I know that I am one of Eldritch. Okay. I've been doing some bit of ancestry.com because I've been a bit like Delulu, not Delulu. What's it called? Naive. Kind of no dumb because I'm gonna let you guys on a secret. I don't know what my past was. So I don't know what I am. But all I just know that I want to just be a detective. That's all. That's my goal. That's my dream. So I really kind of I forgot on purpose what I am, which one I am, but I just know that I am I am related somehow. But that's it. That's all I know. But I don't it's cool, but I just prefer to just be a detective for now. The famous one. Yeah, the famous one. You know when you have a family member and like they're like there's one, I don't know if you have like that one famous relative. It doesn't have to be like a famous one, but like the one relative everyone knows. And for me that's Cthulhu-san. Oh right. Oh, him. Anyways, we're gonna talk about Nyarlathotep. We're gonna read Nyarlathotep. Why is the name so long? Okay, let's go. Last one on the house. Wait, where is it? Oh, I forgot to tape. Ooh, I was about to start reading. Oh wait, we need to read right. Change the title. I need to keep remembering to update the stuff. Okay. Wait, did I put it? Okay. Let me center it. It's kind of hard to move. You work after stream? I do. I have today, sadly. That's why I have to cut it short again. It's not gonna be like my 12-hour stream yesterday. I can't believe I did a 12-hour stream. Yeah, back to the short hours again. And I think I'll have to take a break next week because I've been streaming a lot this month. So take a quick break after. But anyways, we're supposed to read, so let's read. Let's go. Let's go. Barbie. Okay. Where's the thing I put? Alright. Nyarlathotep. Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos. Wait, yeah. I am the best. I will tell the audient void. I do not recall distinctly when it began, but it was months ago. The general tension was horrible. To a season of political and social upheaval was added a strange and brooding apprehension of hideous physical danger, a danger widespread and all-embracing. Such a danger as may be imagined only in the most terrible phantasms of the night. I recall that the people went about it with pale and worried faces, and whispered warnings and prophecies which no one dared consciously repeat or acknowledge to himself what he had heard. A sense of monstrous guilt was upon the land, and out of the abysses between the stars swept chill currents that made men shiver in the dark and lonely places. There was a demonic alteration in the sequence of the seasons. The autumn heat lingered fearsomely, and everyone felt that the world and perhaps the universe had passed from the control of known gods or forces to that of gods or forces which were unknown. And it was then that Nyarlathotep came out of Egypt. He who was, none could tell, but he was the old native blood and looked like a pharaoh. The fellahin knelt when they saw him, yet could not say why. He said he had risen up out of the blackness of 27 centuries, and that he had heard messages from places not on this planet. Into the lands of civilization came Nyarlathotep, swarthy, slender, and sinister, always spying strange instruments of glass and metal and combining them into instruments yet stranger. He spoke much of the sciences, of electricity and psychology, and gave exhibitions of power which sent his spectators away speechless, yet which swelled his fame to exceeding magnitude. Men advised one another to see Nyarlathotep and shuddered, and where Nyarlathotep went, rest vanished, for the small hours were rent with the screams of nightmare. Never before had the screams of nightmare been such a public problem. Now the wise men almost wished they could forbid sleep in the small hours, that the shrieks of cities might less horribly disturb the pale pitying moon as it glimmered on green waters, gliding under bridges and old steeples crumbling against a sickly sky. I remember when Nyarlathotep came to my city, the great, the old, the terrible city of unnumbered crimes. My friend had told me of him, and of the impelling fascination and allurement of his revelations, and I burned with eagerness to explore his uttermost mysteries. My friend said they were horrible and impressive beyond my most fevered imaginings, that what was thrown on a screen in a darkened room prophesied things none but Nyarlathotep could dare prophesy, and that in the sputter of his sparks there was taken from men that which had never been taken before yet, which showed only in the eyes. And I heard it hinted abroad that those who knew Nyarlathotep looked on sights which others say not. It was in the hot autumn that I went through the night with the restless crowds to see Nyarlathotep, through the stifling night and up the endless stars into the choking room. And shadowed on a screen I saw hooded forms amidst ruins, and yellow evil faces peering from behind fallen monuments. And I saw the world battling against blackness, against the waves of destruction from ultimate space, rolling, churning, struggling around the dimming, cooling sun. Then the sparks played amazingly around the heads of the spectators, and the hair stood up on end, while shadows more grotesque than I can tell came out and swatted on the heads. And when I, who was colder and more scientific than the rest, mumbled a trembling protest about imposture and static electricity, Nyarlathotep drave us all out, down the dizzy stairs, into the damp, hot, deserted midnight streets. I screamed aloud that I was not afraid, that I could never be afraid, and others screamed with me for solace. We swore to one another that the city was exactly the same, and still alive. And when the electric lights began to fade, we cursed the company over and over again, and laughed at the queer faces we made. I believe we felt something coming down from the greenish moon, for when we began to depend on its light, we drifted into curious involuntary formations and seemed to know our destinations, though we dared not think of them. Once we looked at the pavement and found the blocks loose and displaced by glass, with scarce a line of rusted metal to show where the tramways had run. And again we saw a tramcar, lone, windowless, dilapidated, and almost on its side. When we gazed around the horizon, we could not find the third tower by the river, and noticed that the silhouette of the second tower was right at the top. Then we split into narrow columns, each of which seemed drawn in a different direction. One disappeared in a narrow alley to the left, leaving only the echo of a shocking moan. Another filed down a weed-choked subway entrance, howling with laughter that was mad. My own column was sucked toward the open country, and presently felt a chill which was not of the hot autumn. For as we stalked out on the dark moor, we beheld around us the hellish moon glitter of evil snows, trackless, inexplicable snows, swept asunder in one direction only, where lay a gulf of all the blacker for its glittering walls. The columns seemed very thin, as it was plodded dreamily into the gulf. I lingered behind, for the black rift in the green-litten snow was frightful, and I thought I had heard the reverberations of a disquieting wail as my companions vanished, but my power to linger was slight, as if beckoned by those who had gone before. I half floated between the titanic snowdrifts, quivering and afraid, into the slightless vortex of the unimaginable. Whew, that was big and chunky. So I think, okay, what I got is that, okay, so there's this guy named Nyarlathotep, and he is science. Apparently, he spoke of the sciences, mostly electricity and psychology. And then I think the author, not author, the narrator, the narrator decided to visit Nyarlathotep, but then he said he was more scientific, that he was not scared of like what was happening. I think what was happening, what Nyarlathotep was doing was, I don't know, doing electricity to the crowd because of the floating hair thing. Hair stood on end thing. That's what I'm imagining. I don't know if I'm reading it wrong. That's what I'm getting. And then I became we, so maybe the narrator went out with his friends or with the crowd. I think the crowd, because they all went away since Nyarlathotep drove them out. Maybe because he was, I don't know, ridiculed. Not ridiculed. Or just like, because he said, what did he say? What did the author say to him? And when I, who was colder and more scientific than the rest, mumbled a trembling protest about imposture and static electricity, so he just like mumbled about what it was, and then it caused the Nyarlathotep to drive them out. He's like, bro, no, it's not electricity, it's magic. Anyways, I don't really get this part on when they went to the subway. They all split up into different columns. So maybe they just split up and then it was snowing. So I'm imagining a train station, subway station that's outside. That's what I'm getting. Okay. Next. Oh wait, it's done. Okay. Screamingly sentient. dumbly delirious. Only the gods that were can tell. A sickened, sensitive shadow, writhing in hands that are not hands, and whirled blindly past ghastly midnights of rotting creation, corpses of dead worlds with sores that were cities, charneled winds that brushed the pallid stars and make them flitter low. Beyond the world's vague ghosts of monstrous things, half-seen columns of unsanctified temples that rest on the nameless rocks beneath the space and reach out to dizzy vacua above the spheres of light and darkness. And through this revolting graveyard of the universe, the muffled, maddening beating of drums and thin, monotonous whine of blasphemous flutes from inconceivable, unlighted chambers beyond time, the detestable pounding and piping whereon to dance slowly, awkwardly, and absurdly, the gigantic, tenebrous ultimate gods, the blind, voiceless, spineless gargoyles whose soul is Nyarlathotep. Wow! We're finished, and that is Nyarlathotep. Woo! Not gonna lie, this was more poetic. I think this one was the poem. Yeah, this was the poem. But I like how he described everything, especially this last sentence. Through this revolting graveyard of the universe, the muffled, maddening beating of drums, and monotonous whine of blasphemous flute from inconceivable, unlighted chambers beyond time, the detestable pounding and piping were on to dance slowly, awkwardly, and absurdly the gigantic, tenebrous ultimate god. Ooh. Kinda, by flutes, kinda sounds like the one right now. Not gonna lie, when I was picking music for the stream, I was like searching random like music and then like put some random Lovecraft music, but then this one got me a lot. Because maybe the flute thing is this a common thing? The beating of the drum and the flutes. Oof. But yeah, I'm getting a oof. This was so nice. I missed so much though because of the family thing. I can't wait to listen to the file later. No worries, Dryad. I'm glad you're able to come by. Ooh. Man, I just... But yeah. Of course. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who went to the stream, who listened. I know it was shorter than last stream, like last Halloween stream. I wish it was longer because I still want to read I still want to read. Where's it called? Oh. Dun, 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 dun. I really want to reach. I really want to read Dunwich Horror, but that's too long. But I want to read it because I really need to read it. But maybe I can read it like physically, because I got the physical copy. Maybe you can read one of the long ones in the future. Yeah, like more like a continuous one. But yes, anyways, thank you for coming to my stream. I'm gonna go, and then I'm going to stream in another week after next week. Take a break. So I'm going. Okay, so we're gonna go. Wait, what's next? Oh, okay. Let's see. Deserve a break? Yeah. I mean, I did a 12-hour stream. The 12-hour stream was so long, but it was so fun. I'm gonna do another 12-hour stream someday. Or imagine a 24-hour stream. But yeah. Cause like man, I don't know why I did hard when I was I was low-key like jumpity after stream of the game because of the game observation duty. I was like drawing and I was very jumpity. And also, yeah, I was also jumpy today because like the music scared me. Or maybe because of like, oh, getting spooked. Because it's spoopy day today. How was everyone's spoopy day? Everyone's very, I know it's very, since it's spoopy day, of course it's like, it's a holiday, so people must be busy. Doing well, just got the groceries. Oh, that's nice. Doing groceries on spoopy day. Got the creepy groceries. Gonna be cooking in a bit. Okay, Brian. I wonder what else is everyone doing in their spooky day. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to raid some. I think Sayu's still on. But yeah, I'm gonna raid Sayu, who is streaming. Wait. Oh, sorry. I sneezed and then my I took, oh my gosh, my cam. You guys didn't see. I accidentally did my face. No. I did my. Don't mind me, guys. That's I totally didn't just do a face reveal right there. I have my VTuber thing on. Okay. When you do, remember if you guys do that accidental when you accidentally do like when you join a voice chat and then you accidentally join with camera on, I accidentally turn on the camera. I'm so sorry. I didn't wake up that morning. But anyways, I will go raid. You didn't see anything. Just like jump scared chat. I didn't. But yes. Thank you guys for coming. I'm going to raid Sayu. I think she's still alive, so I'm going to do it now. I'm still gonna type her name, even if she might not be live right now. But yeah. Totally not a record. Okay. Wait, did I do it right? Yeah. But yeah, thank you everyone. Gonna put the sub message too. Oh wait, no. I keep forgetting. Oh, thank you. Right. Alright guys. Bye bye. Thank you for coming on stream. Alright, I'll go leave you to Sayu. Of course. Bye bye. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your spoopy day. I'll leave. It's time to raid Sayu. Let's go.